It was just after midnight when Jonathan, a 27-year-old college student, returned to his dormitory after a long night of studying at the library. The building was eerily quiet, its usual hum of chatter and footsteps replaced by an unsettling silence. He fumbled with his phone, recording a short vlog update for his friends, something he did almost every night. The hallway behind him stretched long and narrow, illuminated by harsh fluorescent lights that flickered every so often. At first glance, it looked like an ordinary night. But as Jonathan reviewed the recording later, something caught his attention, something that sent a cold shiver crawling down his spine. Behind him, at the far end of the hallway, was a figure. At first, he thought it was just another student, maybe someone coming back late like him. The figure was tall, slender, and seemed to be dressed in dark clothing. But as Jonathan zoomed in, he realized the features were blurred, unnaturally so. There was no face, no details, just a black silhouette, almost like a shadow peeled away from the wall. And the most horrifying part, the figure wasn't moving. It was just standing there, still and silent, watching. Jonathan froze in disbelief, replaying the footage over and over. He remembered glancing behind him that night while walking, but the hallway had looked empty. How could the camera have captured something he didn't see with his own eyes? Determined to prove it was just a trick of the light or maybe a camera glitch, he set up his phone on a tripod the next night. He left it recording as he walked down the same hallway again, whispering nervously into the mic. Halfway through, the lights flickered and dimmed, plunging the corridor into near darkness for just a few seconds. When they came back on, Jonathan felt a rush of icy air against his neck, like someone had exhaled right behind him. He spun around, heart pounding, but once again, the hallway was empty. Or so he thought. When he reviewed the footage later, the figure was back. But this time, it wasn't at the far end of the hallway. It was closer. Much closer. Only a few steps behind him, its formless shadow stretching unnaturally along the floor. Jonathan could see it following his movements, almost mirroring him, as though it fed on his every step. Panic set in. He showed the video to his friends, expecting them to laugh it off, but instead, their faces turned pale. One of them swore they saw the shadow's head tilt, almost like it was acknowledging the camera. Another pointed out that when Jonathan turned around in the recording, the shadow's reflection in the polished hallway floor seemed to linger for a split second longer than his own movement. From that night onward, strange things began happening in Jonathan's dorm. He would wake up to find his door slightly ajar, even though he always locked it. His phone would switch on by itself, its camera app open, recording nothing but the ceiling. Sometimes faint knocks echoed from inside the closet, though no one was there. The haunting seemed to escalate each day, like whatever presence had been caught on camera was no longer content staying in the background. The final piece of footage was the most disturbing of all. Jonathan had left his phone recording overnight, propped up on his desk. Around 3:15 a.m., the screen captured his bedroom door slowly creaking open. For a full minute, nothing happened, just the quiet hum of the dorm. Then, from the darkness of the hallway, the figure appeared. It stood in the doorway, still faceless, its head tilting ever so slightly, as though studying him while he slept. Then, in a movement so unnervingly smooth, it glided forward, closer and closer to his bed. The recording ended abruptly with static, as if the phone had been forced off. Jonathan never uploaded that video. In fact, according to the college bulletin, he dropped out the following semester without warning. His dorm room was cleared, his belongings gone, and no one heard from him again. The phone, however, was found weeks later by the cleaning staff, tucked under the mattress. It still contained the videos. And the last frame, before the static cut in, showed something most people refused to watch in full. the shadow's featureless face inches away from the camera lens. Some say it wasn't just caught on camera. They say the camera was what invited it in. It was late evening in a quiet rural town, the kind of place where roads stretched endlessly through fields and forests, with no streetlights to guide travelers. On that night, two friends, Lisa and Daniel, were driving back from a late shift at work. Lisa was in the passenger seat, scrolling through her phone, while Daniel drove cautiously through the pitch-black countryside. The only sounds were the steady hum of the car engine and the occasional whisper of wind against the windows. Lisa had just started recording a quick video on her phone, documenting their late-night drive for her social media. The dashboard lights cast a faint glow on their tired faces as she joked about how creepy the empty road looked. Daniel chuckled nervously but kept his eyes on the lane ahead. Then, without warning, the camera picked it up. At the edge of the headlights, a figure appeared in the middle of the road. Daniel slammed on the brakes, the tires screeching against the asphalt as Lisa screamed. The car skidded violently, the phone shaking in Lisa's hands, but still recording. For a split second, the figure was illuminated by the headlights, pale, disheveled, with dark, hollow eyes staring directly at them. Then, just as quickly, it vanished. The car finally screeched to a stop, the smell of burning rubber filling the air. Daniel's hands trembled on the steering wheel, his knuckles white from gripping it so tightly. "Did you see that?" Lisa gasped, her voice trembling. Daniel nodded, breathing heavily. "Yeah, but where did it go?" They stepped out of the car cautiously, Lisa clutching her phone, its flashlight cutting through the darkness. The road was empty. No person, no animal, nothing. Only silence. Yet Lisa couldn't stop shaking. She knew what she saw, and the camera had caught it too. Later, when they replayed the footage, their blood ran cold. The figure hadn't vanished. Frame by frame, they could see it more clearly. It wasn't a person. Its proportions were off, the arms too long, the legs bent at strange angles, and the face distorted in an almost inhuman way. The figure seemed to blur with every movement, as if reality itself rejected its presence. But the most chilling discovery was made when Lisa slowed down the footage. As the car skidded, the figure didn't move at all. It just stood there, perfectly still, as if the crash was happening around it. And then, in the very last frames before it disappeared, its head turned, snapping unnaturally fast toward the camera, locking eyes with Lisa through the lens. That was only the beginning. In the days following the near crash, both Lisa and Daniel began to experience strange occurrences. Daniel reported hearing faint footsteps following him whenever he parked his car at night, though no one was ever there. Lisa complained of constant static on her phone whenever she opened the video. More disturbingly, she swore she sometimes heard a faint voice whispering her name through the speakers when she replayed it. The worst incident came 1 week later. Lisa had been home alone, scrolling through her gallery when she accidentally played the video again. But this time, something new appeared. Right after the figure locked eyes with the camera, the video didn't cut off as it had before. Instead, for a fraction of a second, a distorted face filled the screen, too close, too detailed, with black hollow sockets where the eyes should have been. She dropped her phone in terror, but when she picked it up again, the video had returned to its original state, as though that frame had never existed. Convinced they had captured something unexplainable, they sent the footage to an online forum dedicated to paranormal videos. Within hours, it spread across the internet, sparking debates and horror among viewers. Some claimed it was a clever hoax. Others insisted the footage was genuine evidence of something supernatural lurking on deserted roads. But skeptics fell silent when an anonymous commenter posted something chilling beneath the video. "I've seen it too. Same road, same figure." My cousin swerved to avoid it 2 years ago. He didn't survive, Lisa, and Daniel never drove that road again. Some say the figure is a spirit tied to the countless accidents that occurred along that lonely stretch of highway. Others believe it is something far older, a presence that feeds on fear and tragedy, showing itself only to those unlucky enough to cross its path. But one thing remains certain: the video exists, and every person who watches it swears the same thing. The figure isn't just standing in the road, it's standing closer every time you press play. It was a stormy evening when Emma, a young mother of 2, decided to set up her new home security system. Her husband was away on a business trip, and though she wasn't usually paranoid, the isolated house at the edge of town often made her uneasy during the long nights alone. She installed a simple camera by the kitchen window, the kind that streamed directly to her phone and stored recordings to the cloud. For the first few hours, the footage was uneventful. It showed nothing more than rain streaking down the glass, branches swaying under the weight of the storm, and the occasional flash of lightning illuminating the dark yard. Emma even laughed at herself, thinking she had been silly for worrying. But sometime after midnight, the camera captured something she would never forget. At 12:47 a.m., a faint outline appeared at the kitchen window. At first, it looked like a trick of the storm, perhaps the reflection of lightning bouncing off the glass. But as the seconds passed, the outline sharpened. It wasn't a reflection, it was a face. Pale, elongated, and pressed almost flat against the glass. Emma woke to the notification on her phone and checked the live feed. Her blood froze. A stranger was at her window, unmoving, staring directly into the kitchen as if he'd been standing there for hours. His expression was unnatural, too wide-eyed, lips curled into something between a smile and a snarl. The rain rolled down his cheeks, but he didn't blink. Not once. Terrified, Emma dialed 911, whispering into the phone as she crept into her children's room, trying to stay quiet. The operator assured her that police were on their way. When she peeked back at the live feed, the face was gone. Relieved but still shaken, Emma waited with her children in the bedroom until the officers arrived. They searched the property thoroughly, but found no footprints, no evidence anyone had been there at all. "Probably just a malfunction," one of them said. "Cameras glitch in storms all the time." Emma wanted to believe that. She almost did, until she replayed the footage. Frame by frame, the face came back into view, pressing closer against the glass, its breath fogging the window. And then, right before it disappeared, something horrifying happened. The lips moved, whispering words too distorted to make out, but Emma swore she heard her own name through the speakers. From that night on, the disturbances escalated. Sometimes when she walked past the window, she'd catch the faintest glimpse of that same pale face in the reflection, even during the day. Other times she'd wake to find small handprints smeared across the outside of the glass, even though the ground below was muddy and would have shown footprints. The strangest part was that the prints didn't look quite human. They were too long, with fingers that tapered unnaturally sharp. One night, Emma's eldest child, Noah, pointed toward the kitchen and whispered, "Mommy, the man's back." Her stomach dropped. She hadn't told the kids anything about what she saw. She rushed to the window, but once again, there was nothing there. When she checked the camera later, though, the face was clear as ever. Closer this time, so close the eyes seemed to be staring directly into the lens. The timestamp showed the exact moment her son had pointed. Emma finally sent the footage to the security company, desperate for answers. They returned a chilling response. "We're not sure how to explain this, but the facial recognition software keeps tagging the image as user Emma White. It thinks the face is you. That was the last straw." Emma packed up the children and left the house the following morning, never to return. The house remains empty to this day, the window still stained with faint handprints no storm has ever managed to wash away. Neighbors swear they sometimes see a pale face watching them through the glass when they pass by at night. And for those brave enough to search, the original footage still exists online, buried deep in horror forums. The video is less than a minute long, but those who watch it claim that if you stare at the face long enough, it eventually blinks. And worse, sometimes it smiles.